Alright, this tutorial is going to go over how you can start to work on your newscast and combine your extra normal studio scenes with your other scenes that you've already recorded. In this case, I'm pretending I've got one story about some of the science projects my students have been doing and one story about some of the tech projects my students have been doing. So I've already worked on those in another program, but to begin I'm just going to add them to my timeline. And I'll zoom out a little bit here and add the second one, and then add my extra normal newsroom. And this first one, you can kind of tell I made a mistake. Only the first little bit is what I actually wanted. Then there was a bunch of nothing. If I go through this, you see black, 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 and then finally there was some extra stuff at the end. All I really needed from that was just the first little bit. So I'm going to cut it and delete this big second half. So I've got my science stories, my tech stories, and then our extra normal studio. So I'm going to move the extra normal scene to the very beginning. And let's see. Yeah. And then the first part is the science. So if I press play, you can kind of see what I've started here.
Welcome to Mr. Fee News. I'm Dale Dewey.
And I'm Dora Danhart.
It looks like it's been an interesting week in Mr. Fee's science and technology
So
classes.
pretty soon here they talk
That's
about
right, Dale. Students in
what's
Mr.
going on in my
Fugee's
science
science
class.
classes have been learning about physics through a number of computer simulations. Let's take a look at some of the projects they've been working on.
And then I just told extra normal to pause for a second so I could see when I was going to cut to my other videos. So if I zoom in on this, you can actually see there's kind of a pause in the talking, and I'll go right to when she turns her head, and we will cut this now. And that's where my science videos need to go. So I'm going to take my science videos and put them right in the middle, so that now when we press play,
About physics through a number of computer simulations. Let's take a look at some of the projects they've been working on.
now it's going to show some of the things. This is where we would need to do a voiceover, and I've got a tutorial on how to do that. If this was my project, I would say something like, students used Angry Birds to learn about force, then students made roller coasters online to learn about speed and velocity, and I would be kind of describing what was going on in the video. That's called a voiceover. So we've got a tutorial video online on how to do voiceovers and narration. So that's something we would need to work on. I'd say something like, and finally, students worked on a bridge program to learn about the force of compression and tension. The red pieces had a lot of compression on them, and the blue pieces had a lot of tension on them. And now back to the studio.
Wow, that looks like a fun way to learn.
Right there as it came back, there was still some leftover footage of the girl talking, even though she wasn't saying anything. I want it to, when it comes back, to go straight to the guy. So if I move this back a little bit, right after that is where it cuts. So I'm going to trim this back so that it should jump straight back to him talking when it goes back.
Wow, that looks like a fun way to learn about physics.
Alright, that looks a lot better.
Mr. Fee has also been very busy this week preparing his tech students for the Tournament of Technology.
Notice the different camera angles.
Let's see what they've been working on in tech class.
Alright, so again, he said, let's see what they've been working on in tech class. So this is where my next scene would go. So I'm going to cut this in half, and maybe scoot it over, zoom out a little bit, and now I need to take my tech videos and put them into this spot. So if I set it, again, if you overlap a little bit, it can really start to cut up your movie. So you want to be careful to just set it right up against where you want it to go, and then it should put this piece back at the end. So let's see what this looks like.
students for the Tournament of Technology. Let's see what they've been working on in tech class.
And then it goes into some of our projects. Again, the narration will need to be done over your footage. You'll need to be talking about what's going on in your videos. So we'll talk about how students were running the mile to get in shape. This is again where you would have your own footage of your different stories. I just used some of these as an example from what's going on in tech class. Either way, you would narrate it and kind of talk about what's going on in those videos. But now it should go back to the studio. And again, we'll need to clean that up a little bit. Those look like some great projects. So we want to start right on the girl talking when we come back. So if we go back here a little bit, this piece was left over from when we cut it. So we're going to move forward until it goes to her scene. Again, zooming in can help you be really accurate. You can see down here, this is her talking. So I want to make sure we get the first part of her words. So we'll try cutting there. And then deleting this first little piece. And now, if we go back,
those look like some great projects.
It goes straight back to her.
I hope they do well at the tournament.
Yes, I'm sure if they stay focused and work hard, they will do great.
Well, that's it for Mr. Fuki's news today. Be sure to tune in tomorrow to see the robots that are being made in tech class.
Have a nice day.
Alright, so at the end there, I don't want the extra normal logo, so I'm going to move back till right before it shows up, and we will cut that off and delete. And that is going to be the first part of kind of chopping this all together. So if I zoom out now, you can kind of see we started in the studio, kind of introduced, then we talked about a story. Then we went back to the studio, made a comment about the previous story, and then introduced the next one. Then we had the footage from my next story, then we came back. At the end, we need a good closing, kind of wrapping it up. At the beginning, we need a good introduction. We'll add some music to this, we'll do a few other things, but that's kind of how we're going to start putting this all together.